It's a pleasure again to be here with the team from Maximum. And I think today we take the discussion a bit different, not the traditional presentation. So I think, Matthew, you prepared a few questions for us, for the audience, for me to ponder about and explain a bit more. So let's maybe get started with the, let's say, kind of interview dialogue, or what you call it, podcast type of setup. So just fire it away.
Okay, again, first and foremost, thank you again for taking your time and joining us today, Johan. I think it's quite an interesting topic to discuss, focusing on the effect of digital twins in the world of retail, right? Especially with the boom of e-commerce during the past few years with the pandemic. So, so in order to give an idea for those who are new in joining us today, I think it's good to start off with the term digital twin because some people are relatively new to that term. And so, could you give us a short description or
Yeah,
explanation what are digital twins and how does Matterport fit into
yeah,
it?
yeah. Great question, Matthew. And I think it's a valid kind of thing to understand what's actually a digital twin. Now, I think digital twins finds its history actually in the aviation industry, and specifically by NASA. So if you actually roll back the time, you go back all the way back to the 1960s, 1970s, when they were launching the Apollo 13 program somewhere in April 1970. What NASA actually did in order to simulate the space shuttle itself, they actually created, well, at that time not called a digital twin, but a digitalized version of how the Apollo 13 performed and all the different systems inside there. Because as you can imagine, I mean, creating a copy of those in multiple variants, it was extremely costly and quite difficult to set it up. So they thought on a way how to actually digitalize some of those interfaces and the data which came back from different systems, so that you could actually simulate it while the aircraft was actually orbiting in space. And if you do recall, in that particular flight, they had some mechanical problems, some challenges during the flight itself. And it allows the NASA engineers to actually start simulating what are the next steps to do in order to create a safe environment for the astronauts to actually do their mission and come back safely back to Earth. So that's, I think, the first period where you could actually say, well, this was actually kind of a digital twin, where they actually use it to simulate a real-world environment with data coming back from the aircraft itself. And I think that's where you could start as being the founding period of creating a digital twin. Now, moving back again to 2002, that's, I think, where it started to become a term in order to understand how you can actually enable physical objects and create a version of it which you could actually create in a virtual type environment. But the real, I would say, the real drive started towards the 2017, where it became a more practical way to actually start developing a full digital twin of physical objects and create the ability to capture data in real time. And the Internet of Things also help to drive that awareness around it technology. Now, digital twin itself has a few components in it. So you can actually consider the digital twin as being a design twin, the way how you actually create a CAD model around certain objects, physical object. Then you have the service twin, where you can actually start simulating how some of the processes works and how that actually impacts the performance of that particular product. And then you can also go into the process twin, where you then look into how the methodology of a particular machine would actually work, and what are the impacts of it when you actually create a product in a real life type of environment. And it actually helped a lot of the companies who are either creating new products or designing new products to manage their product life cycle much better and more efficiently. Because now you can actually create, using digital twin, you can simulate situations and so forth, which helps you then to optimize that particular product. And again, aviation industry has been the front runner of this, then followed by the automotive industry, manufacturing, and so now you see it more and more into the other, I would say, more mundane type of products being developed through the 3D digital twin setup as well. The way Matterport actually approached this, and you also have to understand again in the context of a aviation industry, automotive industry, large manufacturing type of organizations, the creation of a digital twin in those days was very costly. And so the way Matterport actually looked at it is to create a more democratized version of the creation of a digital twin. And that allows more access to more industries, not limited to the, I would say, the high CapEx enabled type of organizations like aviation, automotive, and manufacturing. And that allows us now to create a digital twin of any type of physical object or physical structure in a very cost-effective manner. And for those who do not know Matterport, Matterport is a Sunnyvale, California-based company established in 2011. The company is now 11 years old. We actually celebrated our 10th anniversary last year. And also last year, we also reached our first big milestone from a financial perspective, because we went IPO on NASDAQ on the 23rd of July. And that was quite a big milestone for the company because we did manage to raise about $640 million, which really helped to grow the company and globalize the company towards its future growth. Because historically, North America was, of course, the growth pole for the company, followed then by the European markets with the headquarters in the UK. And APAC was set up in 2020 physically, although the company was registered in 2019 as a legal entity, but there weren't really any physical people on board. And it's only in 2020 where we started to hire people out of Singapore and within the Southeast Asia markets. And now today, Matterport as a company, we do have close to 50 people across APAC, and it crosses Singapore, of course, as a regional headquarters. But we have now a legal entity in Japan. We also have people working out of the Philippines, Malaysia, South Korea, Hong Kong, India, and Australia. So we do have now the expansion towards the APAC territories as well. I hope that helps to give you a bit of a definition of the 3D digital twins. And the technology which Matterport uses is, I would say, a very mathematical method. We use polygonal type of setup of capturing objects. And those who are not too familiar with this, it's basically a method of capturing, well, we first scan the environment with a 3D camera, preferably, let's say, like a Pro 2 camera, but we also support the 360 cameras, like the Insta360, the Ricoh Theta Z1, as well as the iPhone and Android devices and the BLK360. So that's what we call capturing devices, just to be able to scan the physical environment in 3D. But our software, which is hosted into the AWS cloud, that's actually where all the magic happens. And that means that the 3D data, which we then bring in from the capturing into the AWS cloud, that's where the entire stitching of the different planos of the images are done automatically. All the alignments, the color balancing is all done automatically through the AI platform, which is our Cortex AI platform. And that solution then will help to bring all this together to create then a showcase URL, which allows them to really view that particular physical space in a 3D immersive environment. And of course, if you then take, for instance, your Google lens or your Oculus lens, you can actually get really that immersive experience, like you're physically inside that space, and that gives really that immersive experience, like you're actually physically in that, walking in that particular space. And at the same time, I think it's a very good platform to allow collaboration between multiple people working in the same company, maybe in different company, etc. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a view of how you can look at 3D digital twins from the onset.
Thank you so much, Johan, for your answer. Now, something that when I first delved into Matterport and digital twins, I was actually surprised that digital twins is a very old term. I thought it was just a relatively new term, and apparently no. And you mentioned that initially it has applications on the big end, like aeronautics and manufacturing and industries, right?
Yeah.
But now that with the help of Matterport and creating the Cortex AI, it's becoming more widespread. Like it's becoming more available, not just to the big guys, but to the medium and small guys as well. So, like, which are the industries that can benefit from having digital twins, and what are the justifications of transitioning into having a digital twin for your workspace, right?
Yeah, I think that's as indicated earlier on, right? And you already highlighted it's initially the heavy industries were the ones who took up digital twins because it helped them to create the simulation environment that allows them to save money and improve efficiency of their operations, their product design and product development. And at the same time can be used during operational as well. When you have things running in real time, you can still simulate it on a digital twin. So that's still, I think, the traditional verticals who benefited from it. But again, with the democratization of the technology, where Matterport is the front runner of it, we're now actually able to bring that technology to organizations like residential, real estate type of companies, commercial real estate, shopping mall owners, to normal retail owners, travel hospitality, like any of the hotels. And we have some good examples like Agoda in Thailand. They actually use our technology, same way like Airbnb is using our technology, because there is significant statistical data which shows that if you scan, let's say, a property, whether it's a hotel, whether it's an Airbnb, those type of facilities, if you only see an image, you do not really get a full appreciation of that particular facility. With a 3D scan, you do get a very immersive experience, and you can't really hide things either, right? So which means if your property is not nice at one side of the room, but you can maybe do up the other side and make it nice and glossy. With a 3D digital twin, you can't hide it because everything is captured. And that really creates, for you and I as a consumer, when you want to explore a particular Agoda hotel or an Airbnb location, you can actually get a very good feel whether it's something which you like to stay in, because at the end of the day, you pay money for this, right? So you want to make sure that you get good value for money. And that's something which our technology actually enables those type of industries and those verticals to actually leverage upon. Now, the same token, organizations like, for instance, in the travel hospitality, in the retail side, they can leverage it for typically marketing engagement, marketing promotions, to drive users to go and watch that particular location or retail store. But at the same time, for companies who have, let's say, brand managers or fashion retail managers, want to make sure that your retail store has a consistent look and feel. Again, that's a very good way for them to actually use our technology, because you have, let's say, and there's a good example as well, H&M is one of our global customers. So they have, for instance, I'm not sure in the Philippines, but maybe you have 20 different locations of retail stores in the Philippines. So how do you actually make sure that your brand has the same consistency, look and feel in every single outlet? You can physically travel there, but it costs you time and money. So it's not very efficient. But if you have, let's say, the ability to take out your smartphone, put it on the access device, and then do this quick scan every morning before the retail store opens up, that probably takes the retail or the branch manager, maybe just 10 minutes of his time to do the scan, load it up, and send it over to headquarters. And they can then assess, okay, this particular outlet has 100% compliance of the merchandise layout, the way the rack. I mean, H&M actually is very specific in how the colors of the different apparel is actually shown onto the rack. So now you can actually immediately assess whether they follow the standards process or not, and they can make corrections before they actually open up the store. So this again a way to improve efficiency and productivity in order then to make sure that you're compliant with the brand's guideline. And for the travel hospitality side, you could also use it, for instance, for facilities management purposes. So the same 3D digital twin can now be used not only for marketing purposes, but also for facilities management purposes. Like you may have to do a small renovation in a particular wing of your hotel. You can actually use that scan to see how the room looks like before the changes, and do the scan again after the change has been done, as part of the handover documentation or the approval for a handover of that particular facility. And once that scan has been completed after the renovation has been done, you can again use it for marketing purposes as well. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of where the 3D digital twins can be used. And I would say those are the verticals where after you do the scan, there's immediate value for the end user, whether you are the marketing guy, brand manager, brand product manager for that particular outlet. And then there are, of course, other ways to create value. And that would, for instance, be the integration with IoT sensory data. Because again, we have API and SDK, which allows you then to integrate with other solutions, which can provide some additional unlock of the value from the 3D digital twin. And we have seen inside, for instance, other industries like in the manufacturing or in the oil and gas industry, having IoT sensory data actually helps them to do asset management, and they can actually also do preventive maintenance once you have that information from a particular equipment, which then shows you as a supervisor whether you actually need to send someone into the field in order then to repair, maintain, or upgrade certain equipment. So there's a very widespread of verticals, but I would say the retail, the travel hospitality, residential, commercial, real estate, and facilities management. These are the verticals who immediately will benefit from a simple scan from through the handphone, through the 360 cameras, or through the Proto camera. They can actually just leverage immediately that value from the output which we generate after the scan has been uploaded into the cloud.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Johan. While I was doing my own research for Matterport, right, one of my favorite models is this chocolate factory that shows you through the process. That shows you the process of creating the chocolate, the products, right? And that's very, as a customer, that's very exciting to see. Like, of course, I'm sure everyone knows that the show how it's made, and it's always interesting to see how the products are produced. So that's great marketing material for the company. And for the company, it like you said, it helps out with internally. It also helps out internally, especially when there's renovations. I've read that there's a Domino's branch that was facing a bit of renovation challenges, so they wanted to create a better workflow, a more efficient workflow, and they used Matterport to actually before the renovation and after renovation to ensure that they have a better and more efficient workflow. Right? So those are really interesting cases of Matterport being used in the retail industry.
Yeah, and I think in the Philippines itself, right? Since you guys are actually sold to one of the large retailers in the Philippines, well, actually in the globe on the globe, actually, Icano, or better known as IKEA for the consumer side, but Icano is actually the parent company behind it. I mean, they've been using Matterport to scan the construction of their facilities, and I think it's within the Philippines probably the biggest facility across APAC, where you have a an entire, I would say, warehouse slash retail center, which they set up in the Philippines, using Matterport to help to see the progress. Because again, that I think that was that happened in last year during the peak of the COVID period. And guess what? During that period, no one could fly in from the Singapore headquarters to actually supervise and help the team in the Philippines actually go through the progress of the construction cycle. And through the Matterport scan, people in Singapore, which is what 3.5 hours flight away, they actually managed to help to supervise it, to control, to make modifications remotely, in order then to still be able to hit the opening deadline, which was, I think, towards the end of last year. So I think you do have a very good example in the Philippines, how Matterport actually helped them to keep things moving in a very cost-effective manner.
So moving on, like I mentioned earlier, the e-commerce has risen during the pandemic. Right?
Mhm.
So, are there any interfaces or features that would allow retail stores to make purchases during the Matterport scan?
Yeah, so actually later on I will show you some examples, and I think during the COVID period, you can imagine a lot of the retail stores could not really accept people to come to the stores because no one was actually allowed to go and visit retail stores, whether you are an independent retail store inside a shopping mall. And what we have seen across the globe, not just in APAC, but I would say across the globe, is that a lot of the retail shop owners, brand owners, they actually start to scratch their head. How can we actually still engage during the COVID period? Because in the end of the day, people still want to purchase certain things, their beloved brands. So how can we now enable them to still engage with us as a brand owner, and enable them to still purchase some of the equipment or some of the products accordingly? And since they can't physically go to the store, what's the best way then to actually create that enablement and engagement? And it goes from, I would say, your brick and mortar type of retailers all the way up to the high-end fashion brands. We have seen all of them being able to use our technology to actually still be able to transact and create that e-commerce type of feel through the digital twin. And what we actually done with some of our partners, that through the API and SDK, you can actually leverage our meta tags. Now, those, again, if meta tags is not a common terminology for you, within our 3D digital twin, we have the ability to insert some additional information, pin drops, which we call meta tags. And those pin drops you can actually place anywhere inside the 3D digital twin. So if you have, let's say, a particular object where you want to highlight a bit more information about this object, you can pin drop that meta tag there, and then add in, for instance, a PDF document, a YouTube video, a Word document, etc., to provide more information about that particular object. Now, through the API and SDK integration, the same meta tag can now be enabled to transact an e-commerce transaction. And that allows you then now to show how your retail store looks like. On each merchandise, you can put in a meta tag with the e-commerce enabled. And once you click on that to purchase it, you do not need to leave the digital twin. You stay within the digital store, in the virtual store, but you do see your, let's say, your basket being added with the item which you just purchased. And then, of course, the rest of it, if you want to check out, that process is very similar like any other e-commerce type of transactions. You just create your checkout. If you have a coupon, you probably can get some discount. And then you can actually swipe your, add in your credit card details and securely pay and exit accordingly. And then again, depending on the ability for them to deliver, that's where then the items will be sent over to you. So that's just, I would say, the enablement where you see the or the marriage between e-commerce enablement with the 3D digital twin in the retail environment, that's something which we have seen quite a lot of traction across the globe. So that's brands, retail owners can actually still engage with their customer base, because now you just need to send an EDM to your end customer with the URL and say, hey guys, we hope everything is okay with you. Have a look at our digital version of the store. And by the way, you can actually still purchase your items through this digital twin. And we hope you have a great experience. So, and that's again another way to engage, and particularly during the COVID period. And we do see that even today, when the market starts to slowly open up, it's still not going to go away. So the digital twin still has that value for the retailer to still engage in a digital manner with their end customers, with the people who buy their products. So it's a great way to still create a engagement with the end clients.
Yeah, that's actually really exciting. I remember showing my friends like digital twins and some examples of e-commerce integration, and they're really impressed. It's very good for retailers because it gets people excited, and when people are excited, they're more inclined to make a purchase. So I think we've spoken enough about it. I think now is a good time to show your examples.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen. Then you can actually have a look at some of the examples.
Like you mentioned earlier, the use of matter tags in the chocolate factory. They mentioned earlier they use matter tags by embedding videos of the different employees introducing themselves and telling the customers the process on how they make their chocolate. That's right. Yeah. That's one of the clever uses of it. So here we're going to see the other uses.
All right. So let me start with one example. This is actually an Institute for Technical Education in Singapore, where they used e-commerce integration inside the physical store. So let me go into this. Click onto this. So can you guys see the
yes, we can see
the URL, the showcase. Okay, so let me just play this first. So what you see is that from this high-end view, that's what we call a dollhouse view, where you can see the entire property in its full view, and then you can actually zoom in. Now, this particular instance, we have here a highlight reel, which allows you to walk through that property without. Let me just click on here, where you can actually just go through the property accordingly. And as you can see, I can pan through it like I'm physically there. I can move back and forth, and that's again the difference with a video. The video, you can only move one direction, right, which is only forward, and you have then to rewind and play it backwards again. But here you can actually move around like you're physically there. I can zoom in into object as well. I can zoom out, etc. Right, and then what you can see here, the round little pin drops, these are what we call meta tags, right? So in this particular side of the store, this is the apparel store. Here I can see a pin drop, which shows me information about this particular item. So this is a animal donuts kit backpack. You can see here in overlay of the digital twin through the partner who created a user API. You can see there's a shopping cart, there's a go back button, etc. And there's also a quick highlight of the different items which you can purchase. So in this case, for instance, I want to add this particular backpack into the shopping cart. Now you can see it's 0. So if I add in this shopping cart, you now see it's now added to the shopping cart, this item, right? And you can see without leaving the digital twin, I stay within this digital twin while I can still look at my shopping cart accordingly. And again, I can browse other items. If I like this particular t-shirt, I can click on this particular t-shirt. I can add it to my cart as well. And again, I just stay within the digital twin. So it's a neat feature through the API and SDK integration, which allows me still to continue walk around that store Maybe I like some of the dried flowers or some of the other things which they have here on sale. So this is like a dried bouquet, and yeah, it's something which I can, let me just zoom out a bit. So this is not on sale, it's just information button here for this particular product. So again, it depends on how you actually transact it. And if I want, for instance, to go quickly to, let's say, some of the sports items, then I can see here, or other products, like these are the products available. Then I actually can go and use a shortcut to immediately get there. Yeah. So that's just one example how e-commerce has been integrated with the digital twin, with the ability to stay within the digital twin without leaving it. So whenever you do the shopping. So it's a simple, nifty type of thing, but it does really makes a difference from a user experience. Let me just go back, stop sharing here again.
Yeah, again, even though I'm not going to buy anything from that store, just exploring the place, adding things to the cart, I don't know, it makes me smile.
Let me show you another example. So this is an example from a Korean department store, Polham. And so what you see here again is a Dollhouse View of that particular scan. So it actually gives you a quite a good view of how the store looks like. Again, they use those pin drops, the meta tags, with information about this particular apparel. And what they have done as well, which is quite interesting, is almost like a little treasure hunt, where you can go inside the store, where they use some of those type of floating items, which allows you actually then to participate, let's say, in a lucky draw. But you could use it as a treasure hunt as well, where you say, hey, every time you go into the store, you need to click through those type of items in order to, let's say, participate in a particular lucky draw type of setup, right? So it's quite an interesting setup to make a bit more animation around this particular activity. And like you could, for instance, say, hey, find the gold keys, collect the gold keys, and then you can participate in lucky draw. And that allows them basically to go through the digital twin of that particular department store. And like in any kind of layouts, if you need to go through a particular series of aisles, your eye may catch something, and that's also, I think, the way the marketing team could leverage it. So that, hey, you have to go through those department store aisles in order to actually collect your and find your keys, for instance. Right. So again, here in this case, there's no e-commerce transaction attached to this, but it's more for information purposes. Okay, let me just go to another. Right, so that's a few of the retail sites for merchandise, clothing, apparel type of thing. But again, nothing stops you to use it for other purposes. And in the videos which was shown during the initial introduction of this webinar, Ferguson is one of the home appliances, what you call it, bathroom type of equipment as well. And again, if you go through the Dollhouse View, you can actually see the entire layout of the store with all the different meta tags for all the items which they identified, which is important to them. And from the Dollhouse View, I can actually also go through the different items quickly from a top view perspective, for instance. Now, once I go inside there, I can again walk through this like I'm physically there. I can look at some of the equipment which they have on sale. So here you find, for instance, faucets which are on sale. You can have a look at the information and purchase it as well. So again, any item can be meta tagged. Any item which you have on sale, you can actually meta tag it and provide that information to the viewer accordingly. Right. So that's again another way to showcase equipment. And again, it doesn't require you to physically be there. You can at least see, well, hey, do they have this item which I'm looking for. And before you then order it, you can actually at least view it through the digital twin. So that's, for instance, for more like showrooms, whether it's furniture, whether it's interior design, or whether it's for what you call it, white electronics like washing machines, dryers, fridges, etc. You could actually use the same methodology for those type of products. And let me show another one. So let's say, okay, sorry. So for the, this is, for instance, a BMW and Mini car showroom. So again, it starts with the Dollhouse View. And then what I can do now, I can actually click on that particular, on this button here, which is a play button or highlight reel, where I don't have to do anything else, but you can actually design the sequence of how you go and walk inside this particular digital twin. And that allows you then to guide people to different sections of the showroom. But I can stop anytime in this highlight reel and then do everything on my own in a manual manner. But again, as you can see, you can scan both the outside as well as the inside of the car in order to experience how that particular car looks like. So which means, again, great for car dealers or even second-hand car dealers. You can actually use its technology to really showcase that particular car and get people to watch it before they actually physically go and make an appointment to test drive it, for instance. Right. And again, the interesting thing is within the digital twin, I can also take measurements. Like, for instance, if I want to know how, let's say, this particular space in the car showroom, so I can actually click on it and take measurement of that particular object, or let's say this particular carpet inside the showroom. And it shows me then what's the what's the measurement for that particular facility. Let me go back to all. It's somewhere here. So you can see the distance accordingly. So I can take measurements in 3D space, and that's something which Matterport provides out of the gate with any type of scans. If you do need floor plans, like in case of a retail store layout, you can also use our platform to actually then create floor plans as well. And then in case of manufacturing construction site where you have to do modification of a particular facility, you can actually extract the XYZ and OBJ files, which then can be integrated into Revit from Autodesk as part of the workflow, so that you can actually then help the BIM, the Building Information Management Modeler, to actually use that scan for BIM modeling capabilities or CAD capabilities. So again, and that's only available through the Pro 2 camera as well as the BLK360. That's why you can actually extract meta packs in order then to obtain the OBJ and XYZ files. And then maybe one more example. Sorry. Yeah, I think that should be enough to give you some examples of the different use cases in the retail side.
Yeah, okay. Those were very interesting examples. And if you guys want to see more examples, Matterport has an extensive, very extensive gallery in their website. I could honestly spend hours there through the day, just looking through all the beautiful models there. So, is that everything? Yeah, I think we can now go to the closing remarks.
Yeah, I think that summarizes a bit of the capabilities which we can provide. Again, thank you again, Maximum, for allowing us to present to your audience. If you do have questions, just feel free to raise it inside the chat. I think there will be someone monitoring it. Let's maybe then move to the next part of the webinar, Matthew.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone? Don't be shy. You can ask us anything. Yeah. I guess for my end, my final words is like this is great for customers because you have the measuring tool, you have the spatial awareness of the location. You can browse through items already before you go there. Like I remember going to shopping trips just to find a specific item and finding out that they don't have it on store. But with Matterport, you can avoid those kinds of things. It's also great for the retailer side because since you're showcasing the products that you have, and your customers know exactly what they're looking for, and that reduces time on your end. They can ask you in your Matterport scan, you have this item, this faucet, this specific faucet that you put your model. Let's say faucet model 123. The customer can tell that to you, and your client, your workers don't have to scramble trying to look for what the exact item because you already showed it to the client, right? You already showed it to the customer. So I think Matterport has a huge advantage in the retail space, and it's very accessible compared to before. So yeah,
exactly. I think also if you look at it, Matterport as a technology provider working with Maximum in the Philippines, you can start at a very budget-friendly setup to get at least your initial experience with a 3D digital twin. And of course, if you go more into the professional level, like the Bill K360, that's actually a more expensive device, but any smartphone which you have in your pocket, you can actually use and get started with Matterport. So it's very, I would say, we democratize the way you can actually create your 3D digital twin and leverage that for your particular use case. And it allows you also to scale. Like those companies who have maybe multiple retail stores across the Philippines, you can just use the same SaaS plan and get your retail managers just use their smartphone or maybe an Insta camera to get started. And that can help you really with a lot of questions where if traveling, and again, distances can be quite long in the Philippines as well. So if distance, time, and effort required can be resolved with a simple digital twin, that's how you can actually increase productivity and save some money on travel expenses.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we actually have a question from an anonymous attendee. Good morning. Like us in a hospital setting, we would like to ask how can they apply Matterport, right, in a hospital setting?
Yeah.
If this can be used for inventory of equipment, etc. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question because I think hospitals can be quite a complex maze to navigate through. So one of the ways would be actually to create a digital twin of the hospital, and that would allow you as a visitor, where you're the first time you get into the hospital, you always tend to get lost somewhere. I mean, I do get lost inside hospital, and I need to ask people, hey, how do I get to this ward or that ward? And this would be a great way to actually solve this problem for, I would say, first-time visitors. Or even if you are been there before, but maybe only been to one side of the hospital side, but never been to the other side. So And there are, for instance, wayfinder technologies which can be integrated into this particular digital twin as well. And that again allows you then to say, well, hey, you flip up the phone, take the digital twin, and then the wayfinder will show you where you, how you need to go and travel to in order to get to that particular location which you need to go to. And that's already deployed in Hong Kong. We have one of the shopping mall owners who actually uses this to find your way from one floor to the other floor to that particular sports shop or apparel brand you typically want to buy some items from. So in a hospital setting, exactly the same way, you could actually use that as the starting point. And then for the next step could be where you have scan, let's say, an operating theater. And if, for instance, the medical team as well as the medical CIO decide that they want to add in a new equipment inside the operating theater, they could actually take the 3D digital twin of that particular facility to measure whether it actually fits within that particular operating theater, and then share this with their either manufacturer or the company which works with them to do the installation of that equipment. So again, it's a good way for them to collaborate on that digital twin before they actually install it, etc. So again, can be used for facilities management purposes, asset management tracking. But I would say start first with something which is easy, accessible, and usable, so that the use case is immediately there. And then you can start leveraging, adding, let's say, IT data on it. You can add in other information to make it useful for other departments within the hospital. But from a consumer enablement perspective, it's a great way to engage people who come to the hospital the first time. They need to find a way within the hospital, how to get to the cafeteria, etc. Right? So that's something quite useful, and that creates a great user experience from a NPS score perspective, for instance. And then you can start building up layer by layer, additional information layers, insights, etc., to unlock value for other departments.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer, Johan. Yeah, even if I go to the same hospital over and over again, I'm not memorizing the hallways. So Matterport could definitely assist with that. We have another question. Good morning. I work in schools. Do you have any software or products for schools? Yeah. Can you introduce this to us? Like I think that's like a university special or something. I think that's
it's again fantastic that we hear that question, because we've been working with educational facilities across APAC. We just, I think, signed up a customer in Thailand, one of the international schools in Thailand. They have a huge campus. They have tennis courts, basketball courts, swimming pool, etc. And I think they have quite a sizable campus as well. And they also Matterported their entire campus, because again, it makes it easy for new students to come into the school, show them where things are. So it's impossible for those new kids to actually get lost. And most of the kids today have all smartphones, so it's quite an easy way to get them to navigate through the campus. And also for those students who are interesting to sign up, but want to see how the campus looks like, it's again a great introduction to the educational facility. Again, that's more from a marketing perspective again, right? Where you can create immediate value. Now, the same 3D digital twin could then be used for the person who manages the facilities of the school, because nowadays, I would say a lot of school facilities have IT information, have information regarding their Wi-Fi networks, etc. So a lot of those type of data could be integrated into the digital twin, and it helps again the facilities manager of the school to have a quick look what's happening in the facilities. You can, for instance, integrate IoT data sensors, whether doors are opened, windows are closed, whether lights are switched off, etc. Because in the end of the day, with very large school facilities, if someone leaves the lights on for the entire day and no one actually notices it, that adds on to the electricity bill. And for schools who are, I would say, either publicly funded or funded by private people, those type of operating costs can be drastically reduced if you do have the ability to actually automate through IoT integration inside the digital twins. And we do have partners who can actually enable this. So if there's an interest, we can work with Maximum to actually get those partners to work with you, your school. I think you're still on mute, Matthew.
My apologies. So we have another question from Sir Fernando, the same guy who asked about the school rate. Do you hyperflex classroom software for online learning mode?
Not necessarily, but again, we have the ability, for instance, to integrate. If you have done, let's say, a classroom scan, you could actually integrate, let's say, the whiteboard and turn it into a digital interactive type of setup. Because we can take, for instance, video feeds live into that particular site. So that allows them, for instance, to stream a video, whether it's, let's say, the presentation from a particular lecture. Particularly now with COVID situation, sometimes you see that classes are suspended, but then you can still continue the class in a digital type of format. Yeah, that would be just one way to enable it, but I think not so much value there, because I've seen also here in Singapore, schools will just set up a Zoom call or a Teams call, and the students will just attend, and the teacher can still digitally teach the kids accordingly. So you do not necessarily need a digital twin there. But again, if you still want to have that environments where everybody can actually go inside the digital classroom, that's still possible.
Yeah, thank you for that answer, Johan. Anyone else who would like to ask a question? We're gonna give you a minute for any last-minute questions. Regarding call this an online session, an online conference session, I believe I watched one of these Space Jam videos that they put up in the Matterport's official official YouTube channel. That there's this third party service provider that gives you an interactive conference session. Actually, like you have avatars. If you're familiar with the Nintendo Wii's Me avatars, you can have that with pointers to let you know what the person's looking at and stuff like that. If I find it, I'll link it to to here so that people can check it out. But yeah, that is an option.
Yeah, that's indeed an option. I mean, again, it depends on the developer. So we do have third-party developers who actually created avatars who can actually, let's say, show you around, let's say, museum, right? And then at the same time, the museum, you can have music playing in the background as well, while the avatar actually walk you through the exhibits and explain to you what the exhibits are, instead of having a physical person, of course, showing to you. So, and again, avatars, it's a nice gimmick. Not always necessary, because if you go, let's say, an audio tour, like you would do in a physical setting, in this particular digital setting, you can still go through an audio tour without having the need of an avatar. But the avatar could help you, let's say, if you are in a shopping mall and you say, well, I want to find my way from this floor to that shop, then the avatar could help you to say, hey, follow me, and then you just follow the avatar, and the avatar will show you how to get up to that particular location. So that's yeah, it's possible, but just matter whether it's necessary.
Yeah, that's what's nice with the Matterport too. It's very flexible with its third-party partners. Gives you a lot of flexibility. So,
Correct.
do we have any more questions, or is it all good? Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you so much, Sir Johan, for your time, for sharing us
You're,
your knowledge.
you're
with,
welcome, Matthew. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so here's our digital twin creator package. So from 275 naging 215 na lang siya. It's all inclusive of the Matterport Pro 2 camera. We've included a bag, tripod, and a 1 year subscription of Matterport's SaaS plan. So this promo started last April 27 and ends at the end of the year, on December 31, 2022. So you have a long time to think about and get your own digital twin creator package. If you have any other promos, be sure to update you. And if you have any questions, for example, if you need assistance with creating your own account for Matterport, or just want to try Matterport out, or perhaps you can schedule a live demo for Matterport, you can contact us, and we'll be sending you your certificates of joining us. So you can contact us through there. So yeah, that's all from my